keeps our attention. I miss heavyweights. I miss legitimately giant, tough dudes who, like, the minute you see them, you go, yeah, no, he could fuck somebody up. Like, I miss seeing people like that. I miss the Batista Triple H type matches. I miss, like, matches of the past of, like, the Arn Andersons and whatnot in the television division in WCW. Like, come on, man. Like, you need a balance of everything. And look at all these big, meaty men on Raw, pause. Like, just there, bumping. No, I'm not going to continue this, guy.
Backstage Brawl, y'all already know what it is. It is the Golden Child, a.k.a. JJ Lewis, alongside our usual suspects. We got the People's Champion, Randy Lewis. We got the Diamond Cutter, Eric B. And we also got Kid Ty, Tyler Hicks, bringing you the wrestling news of the week, the start of the week, of course, because it just happened to be last night, Monday Night Raw. And it's episode 30. Fellas, how y'all doing?
Yeah.
Good, feeling great.
30?
30 episodes, man.
3-0?
30 episodes. 3-0. Feel like we just started this.
It's crazy how, like, to be real, like, when we started and how far we've come, and certain people that are messing with us now on social media. I just gotta say to those who are watching and sharing our content, thank you for being with us, rocking with us. We hope to give you more than 30 and hope to be here as long as we can and continue to rock with the Brawl. So thank y'all for watching and following us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. You know, just thank you for just rocking with us.
Yeah, man. Can't say enough how great this is, man. Like this came from years and years of just an idea, and now we finally did it, and it's just like we're reaping the benefits of it, right? And we're about to
7 years.
2 weeks, it'll be 7 years. So it's just like the progression that we've had from 7 years ago to now. It's amazing. So again, thank you guys, man.
And lastly, even though he hasn't been on the show for the last month or so, I have to give a huge shout out to Mean Gene, aka the Future Goat, because when we talked like 2-3 years ago, like to come on and run with the page, he's done a great job on our Facebook platform. He gave us over 30K in fans. We're almost at 40,000, 50K are following us on Facebook right now. They're rocking with us. Everything that he's done, he's a McMahon worker, but anything that he says is so polarizing on Facebook. He's found something special, and I'm glad that he's part of our Tyler. I'm glad that he's rocking with us for better or for worse.
You goddamn Mark.
Love you. Get your ass back in this chat room. Get you back here on the podcast so we can get things rocking and
gotta find a whole new undisclosed location.
Yeah.
Right, it's getting too cold for him now.
Man. It's getting chillier, man.
Right.
Live from the freezer.
Oh God.
Maybe the steam room, like the opposite of it. I mean, it's cold as hell.
I would love to see a laptop in a sauna. I'd love to see how long that shelf life is.
Me and Gene from the boiler room, yo. Bring back the boiler room match.
Boiler room, bro.
I think Mankind and Bray Wyatt are fighting over who has to pay rent down there, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah, man.
I wouldn't want to be in that place.
Yeah, so let's get into it. You mentioned Bray Wyatt. Monday Night Raw just took place at the Thunderdome, day 2 of the draft, night 2 of the draft. A lot of moves have happened on SmackDown and Raw. We can go by the names, but what stood out to you as it pertains to the night, the performances, as well as the draft results, and just how they did everything?
I get that I was kind of happy to see, even though it's kind of repetitive in terms of the people that's in it. The tag team title match between Bobby Roode and
Absolutely.
Roode, and of course New Day.
That was fun.
Xavier Woods, since the days of when he was Consequences Creed back in TNA, my man can go in the ring, and this man is just less than a year removed from an Achilles tear. He and Dolph had a technical exhibition in the first, segments of the match, and I loved it. Like that's if I could choose one thing from that night thus far, like from watching at the time, it was probably that, because the way Woods and Ziggler went, and mind you, people sleep on the fact that Woods is also an amateur wrestler. He did do wrestling back in high school, so for him to do that with Dolph Ziggler and do the mat wrestling, the chain wrestling, it was so fun to watch, especially in the tag team exhibition. Everybody brought it in that match. It was probably one of my favorite matches and moments of the night, just to see those two go at it. It might have blew everyone else's minds out the water in terms of the general consensus, but to the ones that appreciate the stars and what they bring to the table, that was a good highlight for me.
Nah, should have, man. That should have. I mean, between Rude and Ziggler, like Ziggler doing a lot of the collegiate stuff that we've known from him for the past decade, but like especially considering he's been doing it a lot in Raw Underground, that was really cool to see him integrate that into the tag match. I have to say, it's the spot of the night in that match was the catapult famouser. That was ridiculous. I don't think I've ever seen Rude and Ziggler more cohesive as a tag team than in that match. Like it felt like honestly for a second I really did believe there could have been a title swap just because of all the randomness happening with WWE, because they were so cohesive. Like it looked like they were on, like, how do I put it? It felt like with Rude's history of having so many random tag team partners, whether it be Chad Gable and Dolph Ziggler, like if for the first time that they've been a group, I actually legitimately bought Bobby Roode and Dolph Ziggler as a tag team. Like it felt like they really were trying to win. Roode was very aggressive throughout the match. He didn't have to do a lot to get across. Like he had a nasty mean streak in him. And to see Xavier Woods popping and bouncing around the ring after his Achilles injury, to your point, that was pretty awesome. That definitely was a highlight of the night. And that was the best tag match of the show. But we'll get to Lana later. That was,
yeah.
oh my God.
You know, I will say to the point of Xavier Woods, like it's pretty cool to see, because after the match, you know, on social media, he was basically echoing the same sentiments that People's Champ was mentioning, the fact that months removed from an Achilles tear, like it was dope for him to see and to be a part of something as technical as, you know, breathtaking as it was. You know, albeit, you see Dolph Ziggler and Kofi Kingston in the ring together, and you see that combination, and you're just like, oh, there, this again. But you saw what, good can come of just that match. I'll say this as it pertains to the Bobby Roode and Dolph Ziggler thing. There's always this certain hunger, although, how no matter how the draft is works out, there's always this certain hunger that talents tend to have whenever they're either switching brands or there's a big fix. With Dolph Ziggler, it's kind of like a momentum shift where he gets a tag team partner back, albeit, it's a mismatched tag team, but it's still a tag team partner. And then on to top off that, he's basically having his last sign off to Raw before he heads off to SmackDown, similar to Seth Rollins. So it's that kind of like kick in the ass, to perform, even though Dolph doesn't necessarily need it. And to a even greater extent, of Bobby Roode, who just recently came back. So it's awesome to see that they, to your point, had such chemistry and such a fantastic tag match. Big E, what's your thoughts, brother?
I love the tag match, to be honest with you. I loved it. But that was one of my biggest takeaways from last night. Yeah. Also, the Aleister Black and KO no disqualification match.
Yes.
That was really good. And I think it opened the show. That was really, really good. I enjoyed that. For a feud that really didn't look like it wasn't going anywhere, they've put on a really good match. And to see them both go to SmackDown, I hope that, that feud does kind of continue in a way, but it needs to end within probably the next coming weeks. But that was a very good opening match. Very, very well thought out. And it's two guys that a lot of people aren't really expecting to make a big jump in the main event scene anytime soon, but they proved why they need to be there.
Yeah,
Definitely.
yeah. I was gonna say like whatchamacallit, that feud may continue, but on this like, and it may need to end, but does it have as much urgency as a Dominic Mysterio, Seth Rollins?
Oh yeah,
Yeah, I was just throwing that in there. Just throwing that in there. So, Seth Rollins also had a fantastic showing, the triple threat match between, or the triple, in Jeff Hardy's terms, triple threat tag team match with AJ Styles and Seth Rollins. What do y'all think about that bad boy?
The match.
Yeah.
My bad, Eric. Go ahead.
That's a rare. I was gonna say it's rare that we get a triple threat match on TV. Like, you're muted, man.
So you mean a triple threat tag team match?
Yeah, the triple threat.
That match was. It was fun though. Like,
it was fun.
But I will say this.
This is happy died.
No, like, there is one thing I will say from that matchup. One, it was very like fast paced in terms of the offense. They were like chaining into combos all around the place in that match. But I think one thing that kind of stood out to me was the fact that, like, to Jay's point a couple weeks back with Jeff Hardy, Jeff was very visibly hurt. You could tell like he was still feeling the effects of what had happened at Clash of Champions, because Mans was moving around almost in slow motion at points. Like there was even a point where there was like a slight injury scare when he went for the Whisper in the Wind on the both of them and the way he landed on his leg. But he credit to Jeff for working through the match as hurt as he was, because he definitely performed his heart out at like 53% fatigue. Like, his body was hurt, but he was going through it. And obviously there's a big happiness in my heart because we got some continuity, because goddamn Elias came out and El Kabonged Jeff Hardy with the guitar. And we found out later in the night that the reason why, because when I first saw it, I was like, what the fuck, Elias? Because I wanted a lot. I was one of my picks for him to go to Raw in our group chat.
Yeah.
And then I remembered, oh, that's right, Elias got hit by a car. That's why he hasn't been here for so many months. It was so long ago. I was like, thank you, WWE. This is some nice continuity here. Hey, now we're going to have, like, the two guys who wear street clothes all the time fight in the street fight pretty soon. So that's
no more street fights.
It's gonna end in some form of a ladder. He's gonna find a ladder at the end of a bridge.
I'm just picturing Jeff being like, "Yo, I can't do this anymore, man. My body's taking too much." And then he agrees to get El Kabonged in the air mid Whisper in the Wind in a future match. I just feel like it's gonna happen the way that.
No. This is exactly how it happens. Listen, I don't think my body can do it anymore, man. I don't think I could do it anymore, man. I think it's over. It's a shame we're gonna have you have that Hell in a Cell match you wanted at Mania.
What?
Yeah, you could jump off the cell all you want.
He just turns into a Goldberg promo. I think I got one more Whisper in the Wind left in me. I think I got one more.
It's against Shane McMahon. It's against Shane McMahon. Our continuity.
Yes, please. You know what? Shane has a history with Elias. Write it. As bad as it would be, it'd be entertaining.
So, we have been like
on Raw Underground.
Yeah, we've been tiptoeing around it. Well, we could get to the Lana fiascos later, but I do want to touch on the big theme of the night, which was the draft. Of course, you had many different talents switching brands. I believe arguably the biggest in the night, you saw The Fiend and Alexa Bliss both come out. Sister Abigail, dual Sister Abigail, both Andrade and Zelina Vega. What were your biggest takeaways from the moves? Who won the night for you?
SmackDown.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree. SmackDown.
They have so many potential talents.
Like, SmackDown stay fleecing Raw. It's like, oh, you gonna take that? Okay.
They snatched up Apollo, Kevin Owens, Seth Rollins, the Mysterio family. What do you call it? On Raw Talk, they even snatched up Natalya for the women's division, which was a great move, like a veteran move in terms of having some consistent workers.
Y'all know how fire SmackDown about to be. Y'all just sent Roman Reigns lunch food. You're basically just sent people for him to basically say, y'all coming to my island?
So not to focus on the Reigns thing, but it like the spectrum of what SmackDown offers kind of like harkens back similar to what they had back in 16, where they had, AJ and Cena basically at the top tier. Dean Ambrose was the main champion, but you had those three pillars, and then you had these names which were, inherently like they were solid. They weren't being booked right, and they go on SmackDown, which has been the consistently better brand over the past, I would say, 5 years for the better part. And they kind of leveled up that brand, and SmackDown's already up. So to your guys' point, I think it's very interesting. But yeah, in regards to Raw, what would you say like would be like their high points or low points even? Like what are your thoughts? Any particular person that you were surprised who got moved, or even you were just happy that they particularly followed through with the move?
I thought the Fiend was a nice touch. I kind of wanted the Fiend to stay because of the storyline, because I felt like he wasn't quite finished with Roman. Braun, you knew since he went to Underground he was going to be on Raw. So I thought the Fiend was a nice touch because, one, he can actually be a legitimate threat to Drew along the line. And the fact that the way he introduced himself by sending farewell to Zelina and Andrade, that's a huge thing. And of course, with Angel Garza staying on Raw, they're really, really high on him. Because now you have some powerhouses. You have Keith Lee, who's staying. Braun obviously was still there. Drew was the main champion. And then now you got The Fiend. And now Sheamus as well.
That was a great pickup.
There is a lot, especially from between the main event scene and whoever can challenge for the United States title. They have some really good players. It's all about execution, though. But I do think that they made some solid pieces up top in terms of their main card division. I think they did a good job. I do think for Raw, the female division kind of took a step back a little bit, and SmackDown's got considerably better. I do fear what might happen, because I know with the current Hell in a Cell situation with Bayley and Becky, that might just lead to her coming to Raw and possibly Charlotte moving to SmackDown. So it kind of leaves Raw's women's division kind of lacking.
Wait, who going to Raw and who going to SmackDown?
No. I'm just saying in terms of what possibly might happen with Bayley. But I do know that MVP is kind of hinting at the fact that the Hurt Business should use a female, and no one better than Naomi at the time. I think that can help as an acquisition if they do go down that avenue. And then, of course, there's still Retribution with Mia Yim and whatever her character's name is, and then how that dynamic fits into the overall show. But in terms of the picks, I mean, I think Raw tried to get more balanced in this draft, but they kind of overcompensated what they wanted to do and allowed SmackDown to basically like really shore up a lot of needs that they needed in that department. So I think that they kind of overcompensated this draft in some areas. But overall, top heavy, they're very top heavy, which is cool to carry the show. But between the second and third hours, you need something substantial in those kind of divisions, whether it be tag team, especially for the females division.
I think Naomi and Sheamus were two of the sleeper picks that they got in the draft,
definitely.
because Sheamus alone is one of the like more versatile workers where he can jump divisions, and I could see someone like Sheamus on a tweener type level just going after the Hurt Business and being able to chop it up with guys like Bobby Lashley and Shelton. Those are matches I'd love to see personally. But even beyond that, I think the big money match with Sheamus is the history with Drew McIntyre. And the fact that these guys like that can literally give McIntyre time to do stuff in the wake of the Rumble. Not even if it's for a one-off match, like for people who aren't familiar with the two, they do have a long ongoing history. They're very close friends. They've been longtime friends, and they used to work on the European independent scene. And the fact that Sheamus and Drew are both in their physical primes and have such a physical style, it's one of those matches that's going to sell you just off the brutality of it. And if Cesaro and Sheamus's Best of 7 series and their matches over the past couple years can give you any indication of where that could go, Like, just insert Drew into the picture with a more mature Sheamus and Drew at his best right now, and that's going to do some good. And then Naomi, whether she joins the Hurt Business or not, as long as Asuka is the women's champion, that's a built-in story that can work too. You know, the fact that they were a tag team not too long ago during Asuka's period where she was kind of like creatively confused, like they didn't really know what to do with her, and she built a bond with Naomi, which they did touch upon back on SmackDown for a little bit. So that's also an avenue they can go down too while they're trying to figure things out.
Yeah. Let's just hope that this Lana
Oh
number
no,
one
let's talk
contender
about
is
that. I
yeah.
I I just want to go on record and say that yes, the tag match sucked, but I respect a lot of the risks and a lot of the attempts that they took in that match. Like, I think there were points in the match where it looked like it was moving in slow motion. I think Dana Brooke was going for some sort of head scissor maneuver on Natalia, and you just saw the slowest forward roll out of a head scissor you could possibly see out of a head scissor. But to Mandy Rose's credit, although she's still very much closer to the green side than the polished side in pro wrestling, she was taking a lot of risks and trying to expand her offense and show that she has learned a lot and that she was trying her best to push her in-ring skill forward, which is which they talked about in the Miz TV segment where she was calling out Lana for not being able to do that, and Mandy kind of proving that in the match. I thought that was pretty cool. I'm glad the Lana and Natalia group is over. I'm tired of this team, and I think that everyone kind of got that indication like this shouldn't go any farther. And now they've been split in the draft is great. Natalia going back to SmackDown is where she should be in the first place. I don't think she had to have gone to Raw to begin with. But Lana winning, I feel bad because when Natalia was on the verge of winning the Battle Royal, it was actually a really dope elimination because they did the finals with her and Lacey Evans. And they have a long-term history in terms of their matches, even going back to the Saudi Arabia match. So the way she eliminated her, swinging her into the ring post, I was like, that's such a good ending to this battle royal that doesn't make sense. I still don't get why it was dual branded. And then you just see Lana with like the shittiest front kicks, kicking Natalia
Ever.
off the apron, and she won. And I was like, okay, I mean, yeah, she died earlier because of Nia Jax, so it makes sense. But I don't expect this match to last any longer than 2 minutes with Asuka, to be quite honest. And I don't know if that's what they're going for to try to swerve everybody, but I don't know what this really means. You know what I mean? Is this just for something Asuka's supposed to do is this supposed to happen on Raw or Hell in a Cell? That's what I'd rather know. It's just
Yeah.
Nobody knows just yet. If it happens at
okay.
Hell in the Cell, it's probably gonna be pre-show.
Yeah. I think they'll probably shoehorn it just because like I don't know what the time frame is for Hell in a Cell, but I'm sure that it's more or less 3 weeks, I'd say.
I'd imagine it'd be a
So
longer show just because they have cells that they got to do.
It's in
Like,
2 weeks,
Yes,
it's
and
in
so
two
I
weeks.
think it's the 20.
Yeah, just so
25th.
so because of that, like you're probably gonna have that as an add-on at best.
I just picture that ending like a lot of Asuka's NXT matches, like where one of the biggest, like one of the most memorable moments is like when Cameron tried to swing for a punch and she got caught into a flying armbar. I just picture Lana going in with all that
Ooh.
confidence. Because if you watch Raw Talk, she cut a pretty good promo in terms of getting herself over, saying, like talking about the American dream and saying that she visualizes it, therefore it will happen, all of that. Speaking very much like an influencer on social media. And with all that confidence going in, I just picture her, swings a punch and then gets put into an armbar, dies, and then cries in the middle of the ring. Like that's kind of how I see this going.
Yeah.
So who knows where this goes for
I gotta,
Lana?
yeah, I gotta give Lana credit, regardless of the lack of talent that she got. But like you said, I gotta give her credit.
So
I think too many times we're overcritical of certain people who may not be great in the ring, or not like a person personally. I know I'm guilty of it with the Bellas. So I gotta give her credit where credit is due in terms of her actually doing her part. Because sometimes when you do this, you're a character and you play it to the best of your ability, and she's doing that as a female. So
Ease's blood is boiling. What's going on?
nah, cause I just thought of a booking idea and I think this might happen.
Ooh.
Okay.
Let's just say they do put this off until Hell in a Cell. Let's just say by any chance it does get on the main card. What if they pair Asuka up with somebody else? Like Natalia's gone, so what if they pair her up with Eva Marie? Because Eva Marie's supposed to come back.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know how that, because here's the thing, Charlotte is expected to come back at some point pretty soon. And I think that as long as Asuka is at the top of the division, that's the match they're trying to build towards, because Charlotte didn't exactly get her just due on the women's championship. So I don't know. Like Raw's women's division is really weird.
Women's championship? Just do.
Not just do in storyline, but my point being, but it's like Raw's women's division is very weird right now because it's very heel heavy, and a lot of the heels are very similar. Like between Peyton Royce, Lana, and company, like it's kind of tough.
It's just. I just thought about that only because she wasn't in the draft pool, and I felt like if that were to happen, to have her in the draft pool, just to draft her somewhere, but not really debut her just yet, that would have been the perfect opportunity to do so. You know what I'm saying?
I think they're doing a disservice if Eva Marie's not on the same show as Corey Graves.
That's another one. Too.
Although I will say, you know,
the presses.
He
everything
with the Mandys of the world. He is dating Carmella, so it's like, you know, who knows? Speaking
of undrafted, I think I originally had a pick for Mickie James to go to SmackDown, but I think Natalya filled out that slot as being the veteran to go over.
Damn.
I think Mickie James being undrafted, she might end up going back to Raw because it seems as though they have a lot of greener, more less experienced talents on Raw, so they might need some veterans to help bring out the best.
Way she can win.
I know, but I mean, like with Natalya going over there, she kind of filled the spot that I thought Mickie James would take.
Y'all doing my baby wrong.
Yeah, that's a damn facts.
Mickie, come home. Not joking.
I mean, of course, like you did mention Mickie James going unnoticed in the draft. Another person that went unnoticed, touched on them a little bit earlier, Andrade. What's our plans for him? How could we fantasy book
Intercontinental champion of the world?
I think that they hinted at it last night on Raw because Zelina was very torn during the match with Angel Garza Andrade. How she cares but she doesn't. Like she wants nothing to do with them, but she also cares. And it's like I don't really know if they're gonna stay a unit because they've been building towards like them breaking up for a while. So there's a part of me that believes that it would make more sense for Andrade to go it on his own. I know Angel Garza can last on his own between the mic skill, the personality, and the in-ring, and as he's healing from his injury. But Andrade, the thing that got him over was he didn't have to talk that much, and he just did more of his stuff in the ring, and Zelina would pick up the slack on the talking end, right? If you bring him over to SmackDown and have him focus more on his in-ring work and just have bangers, I mean, he has people like Apollo Crews over there, Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, Jeff and AJ moved over, but you still have a pretty big variety of people. And not only that, but mentioning the people that went undrafted, there's still people that could end up on SmackDown again, like Chad Gable and whatnot, who could help fill in a lot of those gaps in ring wise. So I think it'd be better for him to just be on his own and just be a killer, like a match bout clinic every single week.
Yeah. Just also to note, important to note too, talking points from Raw as pertains to Mickie James. Mickie James, she came at WWE about the whole undrafted thing, and immediately after Lars Sullivan got drafted, and yes, we did not touch on Lars Sullivan last week for obvious reasons, for good reasons, is because where there's
ain't nobody care. Ain't nobody care.
Right.
We can move that on. Speaking of seeming like not caring, Retribution, MIA this week. I know E, you had an opinion on this. What say you, brother?
All right. So I know I've been very critical about Retribution as of late, but now they have my attention with revealing Ali as their leader. Now, the segment in the preview for Monday Night Raw was supposed to be Ali was supposed to come out and explain basically his involvement in Retribution, and the segment got cut from last night. We discussed this before we got on here. Basically, everyone feels like, it shouldn't have got cut for the most part. It should have opened the show, in my opinion. I felt like it should have opened the show, but it just stays with the continuity of the show. It stays with, the relevance of Retribution. If this is going to be your main group that you're going to put over on Raw, you have to give them their shine and their just due. So, and being that Ali has been a figure of pretty much the lower mid-card to mid-card, which he shouldn't be at, it's nice to see him come into a different light to where he's able to pull himself out of there. And he is, believe it or not, a main event player in my eyes. And this was his opportunity. Hopefully they do him his just due next Monday, and they let him come out and, have his time.
It's weird to think, because I think that Ali, like, if you were to chronicle his WWE career, it's one of the most unique ones that you can imagine. Like, he's either been prominently featured in like a damn near title picture, and then the very next week he's gone from existence. It's like very high and very low. Like, there's no IC title picture. It's just either he's competing for damn near the strap, or he's on main event, which is a weird thing to see. So it's very interesting. People's Champ, Kid Ty, your thoughts?
It's tough because the entire week since he revealed himself as a leader of Retribution, you would have thought that with everything he's been saying on Twitter, you would have had a reasoning behind it. For a guy like Ali, I mean, we all know how talented he is. We all know how great he is. I like the fact that, a couple years back, last year, excuse me, they were basically trying to push him to become a champion and become a top babyface, which he could pull off, which I would have been proud of. But, fortunate for us, we got Kofi Mania. But now then he did the hacker gimmick. And we're just kind of like, okay, where are we going to go with this? Because we all know it's Ali. And then that dropped. And then Retribution came. The reveal was nice. So where's the follow-up? He's been unfortunately, part of a stop, push situation, which is
bigger than anyone else. Bigger than anyone else, arguably, because, again, like, main event, then you're on main event. It's kind of he was essentially the semi-main last week,
Yeah, here's the thing. I agree with the notion that they should have at least done something, put forward an effort on Monday to somewhat hype when Ali was going to talk. It didn't have to necessarily happen last night. I saw recently that Mustafa Ali, he put out a tweet where someone was like, yo, Ali was supposed to talk. And Ali is like, oh, essentially saying, like, isn't it terrible when someone promises you something and then you don't get it, kind of playing off the fact that he wasn't on Raw last night. And we've seen situations like that in the past where someone is expected to speak and you'd want them to speak, but they make it work. I think one of the best examples is back in 2012 when Chris Jericho pulled off the Jeritroll segment, like series of segments where he would come out and pretend he was going to speak after coming back with the whole end of the world thing. And then he waited and waited. And then when he finally spoke, he only said one line, and we were invested in it anyway because we were just waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. And I think Ali can do that. And I think that, WWE's booking aside, right? Because that does play into it. The one thing that Mustafa Ali has going for him is the fact that he is one of the most believable mic workers in professional wrestling today. And a lot of people don't seem to give him his credit for that, or they forget that. Because for a while, Mustafa Ali was not a fixture in any picture. Like you said, either he's at the top or he's at the bottom. And when he was at the bottom in the Cruiserweight division, he put himself over with his own self-produced promos that he would post to his social media platforms, which got a lot of people behind him in the first place. And in a lot of those promos, he gave people background information about who he was. He talked about his journeys and how he used to be he would play up the villain gimmick because of the stereotypes that went on with his ethnicity, his nationality, and he would play up to that and how he had to come to a decision about turning and doing something for the greater good because he saw how it affected certain people and how it affected people like him. And he's been doing this for years, right? So I give him the benefit of the doubt that when he does speak, he will make the most of that opportunity. But I do agree with Big E. An effort should have been put forward last night, but he didn't necessarily have to speak. If you want to milk this, you have to milk it the right way, but you have to put in an effort to give the fans an idea of what you're trying to do. You can't just like have a recap from last week, right? And then have Retribution get drafted, and that's all the Retribution mention that you see on Raw. I don't think that was smart at all.
Yeah. Or even just don't put them in the pool. Like there's
give them contracts. I'm
Yeah.
still mad about this.
Yeah.
That was
yeah. It's
that
there's
was
a lot.
beyond me.
There's a lot we could get into.
Point being, last night what might be a mistake, it could work to their advantage. We have to see if this continues.
Yeah, it was a swing and a miss, but you got still 2 more at bats.
Exactly.
So
No,
there you go.
That's their last. That's their last out.
Hey man, hey, it is what it is.
Can't blame people, and the story's been kind of topsy-turvy this whole
I'll
Retribution.
just say this much before we go on. Big E, over under matches that Braun Strowman and Bray Wyatt is going to fight over the next year. I got 5 over or under.
5? Oh my
Over,
god.
under.
You're gonna go 5. I'm gonna raise you 1, and I'm gonna say 6.
Oh, you're going on over. All right. I'm
gonna make it even. I'm gonna go.
I get past.
I'm not looking forward to that. Oh yeah, we can bet on that too because
Raw is very heavyweight heavy, and I love it. I love the fact that they're actual true heavyweights right now on the show.
Oh, Vince is having a great time over there.
And I don't have a problem. Nah, bro, like I don't have a problem with them having heavy, like in an era where we want like the best technical proficiency, best action, fast pace, keeps our attention. I miss heavyweights. I miss legitimately giant, tough dudes who like the minute you see them, you go, yeah, no, he could fuck somebody up. Like I miss seeing people like that. I miss the Batista Triple H type matches. I miss like matches of the past of like the Arn Andersons and whatnot in the television division in WCW. Like, come on, man. Like you need a balance of everything. And look at all these big meaty men on Raw. Pause. Like just there bumping. No, I'm not gonna continue this, guy.
You got Bobby Lashley, Keith Lee, Braun Strowman, Bray Wyatt, Drew McIntyre, Sheamus, eventually Brock Lesnar.
There's a whole heavyweight division just waiting. I'm mad Sheamus keeps getting drafted away from the Intercontinental title.
The dude from Raw. The dude from Raw Underground.
Yeah, true.
Speaking of heavyweights.
Not me.
The heavyweight tag team championships last night got swapped.
That was actually pretty cool.
No.
I like
I don't agree with this.
Let's talk about it.
I know you don't agree with the swapping. I just love the moment.
You know, okay. I saw the Dudleys. I saw a picture. It was like of the Dudleys like looking at them sideways at the fact that New Day passed their title reign.
They're still tied.
I think they're tied. Yeah.
They're still tied.
Yeah, but there was a meme on Facebook of like whatchamacallit, like the Dudleys looking at WWE like, bro, are you serious? Are you dumb? Are you dumb?
I'm mad because WWE, and they did this with the Hardys too, when they were fighting Sheamus and Cesaro. They're not counting the WCW tag title reign that happened within WWE either. For some reason, they're not counting any of those like we absorb these belts title reigns anymore unless it's like convenient. And I know they do that. Like for example, they'll mention RVD's an ECW champion, even though he won it in WWE's incarnation of ECW. But when it comes to Kane, Big Show, Mark Henry, this, that, it just disappears. You gotta, it fits whatever fits the narrative for them, right?
Pour one out for Ric Flair, who's still a 16-time world champion.
21-time world.
21 times.
But my point being is that last night when I saw this tag title swap, you can tell I was paying mad attention to Raw. I was looking at this, and the segment was awesome. It was hilarious, granted. But my thing was just I don't like the fact that they wrote themselves into a corner like that. If that makes sense. Like, I understand wanting to get a shock value. It's like, yo, the Raw tag team champions are going to SmackDown. Like, I get that. I understand that part. But it's like, first of all, I don't agree with New Day winning the tag championships off their first appearance back. I felt like that kind of wasn't fair to Sheamus and Cesaro, who've been kind of holding it down for months.
Cesaro and
Cesaro and Shinsuke, my bad. Cesaro, you need to get him out of the tag division. It's literally bleeding over. Like, I'm still hung up on the Tyson Kidd thing. But like, what do you call it? The fact that the Artist Collective had been rocking with these belts to the point where they didn't even need Sami Zayn anymore. I felt like that did them a disservice by having them lose to a New Day that was literally on the shelf for a minute. So it kind of bothered me. But then the fact that it was like, oh, they won it, and now they're not even going to be on SmackDown to defend it no more because they're going to switch over to Raw with the belts. It was like everyone was up. Like, the controversy of it was cool because everyone was literally interested. It's like, okay, so we've seen the Universal Championship change colors, right?
Mm-hmm.
What do we do when we have a belt that's predominantly identifies with this brand, goes to the other brand? And based on the corner that they wrote themselves into, you didn't have many other options but to swap the belts or introduce new tag titles to award to the champions.
Or to Big E's point, unify them.
Or unify them. My thing is, if it was really more about getting certain talents on each show, right? Then I think the titles didn't even have to be like, they didn't even have to have championships to swap brands, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you like, one of the things that some people do, and we see it all the time with NXT, is that if you want to move somebody from one brand to the next, you have them do the honors and put somebody over on the way out, and then they come to a new slate of a show when they switch to a different brand. And I think the Street Profits could have done that easily, especially considering that they've instituted this rule, which works to their convenience, again, whatever narrative they spin, where you don't have to have a rematch clause. The Street Profits could have easily lost the tag team championships to a team and moved on. Even if it wasn't a team with a lot of promise, they could have dropped it to a team, given another team a chance to rock with the straps, and go right over to SmackDown as fresh contenders, being like, yo, we dominated Raw for the whole year, right? So what do you think we're about to do over here? And then in the same token, if you wanted New Day to go over to Raw, you could have had that, like, you could have had on SmackDown or just Raw today, you could have had a situation where New Day got drafted over to Raw and you had Street Profits versus the New Day to kind of hype up the fact that you're not going to see this tag match because they're going to different brands, as sort of a way to send them both onto their respective brands with a certain level of momentum off a dream match. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it felt kind of weird seeing the swap. Like, the swap, like, I looked at it when I saw the segment, I was like, oh, makes sense. Like, what else can we really do in this situation? But I don't think we had to be in that situation in the first place. And then someone else brought it up. I think Lance Storm, or I remember Shane Helms was very critical about it. He said it was lazy creative. And then Lance Storm said, well, the title histories are going to have a weird anecdote now.
Hurricane hated it. He hated it the entire draft. Since Friday's like, listen, I don't fuck with this shit.
I mean, the draft in general, like, is one of those, like, I understand what WWE's trying to do. They're trying to make it like a more realistic, like, sports draft where you start with nothing and gain your assets back. But in the same token, you already have a set in stone formula of, like, when we draft, it's literally just a bunch of giant trades. Like, we're ripping talents from you, but we keep our rosters, you know? So it's like, you could have just stuck with your formula instead of conforming to the existing sports formula for a draft, which would have made you look more unique in the first place and made things more organized. Because, like, why do we have to redraft Roman when he's already here? You know what I mean? Like, I was talking to the guys about this before on a phone call. Eric, you didn't get to hear this, so you get to hear it for the first time. But, like, I was sitting there and I was trying to take elements from previous draft approaches they've done, whether it be the superstar shakeup, the old school draft, or just the trades they would do in the mid 2000s, right? And I sat there and I was like, the easiest thing they could do is a week after the night after WrestleMania is just start the draft season. And similar to how they did King of the Ring during Ruthless Aggression, have a whole bunch of qualifying matches within the brand. So on SmackDown, you would have, like, on SmackDown and Raw, you would have one Raw versus SmackDown match on each show that week, then have a break on the second week, then the third week, another Raw versus SmackDown match, and then a break. And then we go to the pay-per-view and announce the people who've been drafted. Like, you could have Raw and SmackDown fight for draft picks, so they could rip certain talents that they want. You can't draft any champions per se, but you could draft big assets that you want on your show. And I felt like that would make a lot more sense because we're sitting here and in like the Superstar Shakeup was literally like an entrance, right? The whole point of it was the surprise factor. And the recent draft installations, it's like you got everybody's hopes up because you were expecting major trades, but the reality is like, oh, last year you were trying to fix what you messed up with the Superstar Shakeup. And then this year, it's like you have some nice switches here and there, but it still feels weird to see Drew drafted to Raw when he's been the champion of Raw already, or Roman drafted to SmackDown when he's already there. Like, just keep what you have and try to take what you don't have. That's what I would want to see more from the draft. You know what I mean? As opposed to it like being like, oh, all these people that went undrafted and now they're just going to appear wherever they want. It's like it feels more disorganized than it has to be. And I think that really played into the tag titles just being switched out because you're doing a lot of stuff more so for the pop than for the logic, is what I'm trying to say. My bad for the long ass tangent, but that's just kind of where I feel with this draft.
It's all good, man. Hey, listen, that's what Backstage Brawl is here for. We here for the long matches and
How
short.
how long will it be before you see a SmackDown star coming back to Raw? Like, remember the old rule they used to have? I forgot the name of it because
The wild card rule.
The wild card rule. How long before we get back to that?
It depends on how the ratings go. If Raw's ratings are so bad that they want to take talent over from the other show that are popping, because SmackDown has a reputation of giving a lot of talents a chance to do things they couldn't do and raise their stock. It really depends on the ratings. If Raw and SmackDown's ratings both suck, Vince is going to blur the lines with the brand extension again, which is one of the reasons why people are mad at this installation of the brand extension, because it feels like it'll last for like maybe a month or two. And then Vince caves and goes, yeah, we got to get John Morrison back on SmackDown. Yeah. Shaman is sexy. Yeah. Just corkscrew all over the ring. And I would love that.
Yeah.
But
meanwhile, Kevin Owens, he's like, yeah, Kevin Owens show.
On Raw. On and NXT in the same weeks. Like, what? Why the fuck are we?
Charlotte there too. What?
Just don't get me wrong. The original brand extension blurred the lines between the brands at times too. Seriously, what the fuck were the Hardys doing in 2006? Just
listen, they were everywhere, bro.
And it was great. Don't get me wrong. I enjoyed it, but it was like that's still it's not fair.
Hardy had dreadlocks, and
Matt had this big ass. He had this big ass black and red belt on SmackDown, teaming with Chris Benoit one week, and then the next week he's teaming with Jeff on Raw, fighting Lance Cade and Trevor Murdoch. It happens, but the fact that it happens so much now for no reason, it's like you can't even digest it. You know?
Yeah, no, that's a fact, man. But you know, that's something to look forward to and forecast. I could say in terms of like how long will it take. I agree with Ty, but I do believe that if the ratings do drop, you're gonna see some random Kevin Owens show with some random continuity with Bray Wyatt and the Fiend.
Yep.
You know,
I will say the one
Survivor Series maybe, because Survivor Series is gonna have that.
We need one cross brand interaction. I need more Lesnar and R-Truth.
Yes.
More
I need to see that Brock has a heart.
Because contrary to popular belief, I think Lesnar is going to return to SmackDown since he's literally written in the storyline, can do whatever he wants. I think he's going to return to SmackDown, possibly to confront Roman. Because if you think about it in terms of the trajectory of WrestleMania, we've been talking about Rock. We even hinted at Samoa Joe. But like when you think about it, nobody wants Brock versus Roman. But in terms of storyline sense, with Heyman being Roman's advocate now, in a sense, doesn't that seem like the logical match to have? If it's not Brock and Drew, Brock and Roman, the fact that Brock literally has a tie to both world champions right now is kind of interesting to me, and I don't think enough people are talking about it.
Yeah. I mean, like it has something to do with like the storyline that is kind of embedded with the whole family tree. Jay Uso was on Peter Rosenberg's show, basically explaining that that storyline has been extending. So with that on the horizon, you can kind of see the Rock murmurs kind of big up. So big on that.
But also
we gotta what's up?
Before we move forward, I like the fact that he said it with his chest today, because I read a quote today that he said that he is the only person to bring out a certain kind of emotion from Roman in the ring. He said, not Bray Wyatt has done that, not Braun Strowman, not Brock, not Seth, not Dean. Now, anybody's face, whether even the Undertaker at WrestleMania, has brought out what he brought out of Roman, and he took a lot of pride so far in the storyline. So I gotta give a shout out to Jey Uso.
Yeah.
Talk your shit, Us.
But on the topic of Brock, assuming they don't go down the family route and we see Rock at Mania, if they do the Brock match at Mania, I'm not gonna sit here and lie to you. A lot of these matches happen in threes. And we've seen Roman and Brock have matches at Mania before. The second one being ass. But remember, Roman has never been able to really beat Brock on his own. And the only time that Roman's beaten Brock is with a chair. So something tells me there is a possibility it could happen at WrestleMania. I feel like there are too many planets aligning in that direction, to be quite honest with you.
I mean, it.
And it fits Roman's narrative of wanting to dominate everything and show this is really his WWE. What better way than get that monkey off his back? Because Brock could literally bring that up and be like, "You didn't beat me, bitch," at SummerSlam.
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be tough only because like Roman's character. I don't think, like there's a certain pride in winning. There's not much pride in like how he wins at this point, especially because how he did Jey Uso, like kind of did the kick out.
That's true.
Groining him. So it has a lot of, underlying themes, but of course there's some little fine tuning that they have to do. In regards to the rest of the week, though, we have, again, I believe G1 still going on. You have Impact. You have AEW, NXT, SmackDown, of course. What you guys looking forward to heading into this week?
I'm actually looking forward to Impact. When I was working today, I had some time. Like they did a cold open for this week's episode of Impact, and how I loved what I saw between Eric Young and Rich Swann, because Rich Swann's been basically rehabbing himself to come back and to face Eric Young for the title at Bound for Glory, and that was a really good thing. He came out of nowhere and started yoking him up. Moose and EC3. That's gonna be something fun to watch. EC3 in his brooding, like his dark, persona right now. He's killing it, man, since he's been back. But one of my favorite things about Impact, is their tag team division. The Motor City Machine Guns, the North. Whoa, like yo. And then you got the Good Brothers. Such good shit that's coming from Impact Wrestling. I gotta, especially with no fans and what they're doing right now. I love what they're doing. Rich Swann's been a favorite of mine since the Cruiserweight Classic. Eric Young has always been my favorite since the early days of TNA. Yeah, man.
I love my prediction being right. I said it. There'd be a day where Randy would come back to Impact and give them their props. And I was right. Hey, you didn't want to let me have it.
What?
I have to put you on blast, boy. I'll tell you something right now.
What?
Are you Taker now? I just heard. I heard the boy.
I'm wearing all black, so yes.
Okay.
I'm gonna go with AEW 1 year anniversary this week. Definitely, this is something I've been looking forward to. AEW celebrating their 1 year. All the titles are being defended, so I am definitely looking forward to that. And hopefully, we will see the end of Jon Moxley's reign. Even though it hasn't been bad, but it hasn't been all good. It just needs to end. So hopefully we see something with that. I'm also and because we really don't talk about them that much, NWA Power, Damian Sandow, he lost the title last week to Trevor Murdoch. So
yeah,
kind of wanna see how they go in that direction with NWA.
Shout out to Trevor Murdoch.
Yeah, shouts out to him. For real, you had a complete turnaround with your career. That's great.
All right. Good time, man. We ended off with you.
I recently saw the NWA doing a little compilation thing on their YouTube channel. I do want to see how they resurrect after having one of the worst draft lotteries in wrestling history recently, with everyone taking their talent. I'm very bitter, okay, because I'm an NWA fan. However, I think one of the biggest things for me going this week and beyond is I want to see how NXT responds to not having their world champion. On the topic of world champion, since you brought up Moxley, not having their world champion with Finn Balor being out for a couple of weeks now. It's not to say that Finn can't cut promos if he's physically able to cut promos, but NXT has a deep talent pool, and it makes me wonder, is the North American Championship going to get a step up? Does that mean Damian Priest is going to be featured more prominently to kind of carry the show? WWE has had a very successful run of sneaking people past borders, as evident by Brock Lesnar, who probably broke his way through at least 3 tanks to get to Mania, and Bobby Roode recently coming back. So it makes me also wonder, are they going to possibly reignite the Walter situation? Is Walter going to step in as the world champion to kind of taunt Finn and have them rekindle that feud, which led to an earlier prediction of mine of possibly Finn and Walter being like, who really is the best NXT like major champion of their brands type thing. And I think that makes a lot of sense because we are heading into Survivor Series season. I don't know if they're going to do another Worlds Collide, but I do suspect that NXT will have something to do, because with Survivor Series season comes what?
Takeover.
War Games. With take War Games is on the horizon, most likely. I don't think it's happened this year outside of AEW's version, right? So if I'm correct, War Games does happen around the same time as Survivor Series.
It does.
So it makes me wonder if there's going to be brand supremacy in Survivor Series. Actually, I don't even know if that will be the case this year. But if we're going to see any brand warfare, I would like to see take over, have NXT versus NXT UK, because it's like if NXT UK's relaunch is coming in right now, the way that it has, right? It would make sense for them to want to come in with all that fire and be like, yeah, we're going to try to close the gap on all this momentum y'all have had since we've been dead because assholes. So that's kind of what I want to see. I would personally, if I were fantasy booking anything, I'd have Walter come in and be like, so I see that your champion has fallen ill because he couldn't handle a little shot to the jaw. Considering, Walter just palms hearts out of chests and shit. So, it would be a question of Walter testing Finn Balor's toughness and saying, maybe you're not fit to be the top champion of NXT. Maybe I should take over for both brands since you're not tough enough. Just like I said you weren't tough enough all those months ago. More tough enough references because they both use yellow. That's what I think should happen, personally. So I want to see how NXT goes without a world champion and if it leads to something when Balor comes back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, most def, man. And, not for nothing, you guys are looking forward to many things. Of course, SmackDown also on the horizon. I know what I'm potentially looking forward to, not as it pertains to this week, but in general, I'm looking forward to many more episodes with y'all. Keeping on grinding. We in 30. We're going to go 60, 90, however long it's going to be.
Not 40, not 50, not 60. Not 70,
not 80, not 90.
80, not 90.
Yeah,
Shouts
man.
out to LeBron James on winning your 4th ring, by the way.
Go.
Non-wrestling related.
That's a fact. So,
I'm so bitter. I'm a Heat guy.
Listen. Yeah, we got to go. We got
call me Brett one more goddamn time, Randy. Don't
listen.
Be surprised.
The Knicks haven't won yet. Okay, in my lifetime, you've seen 3. Okay. Let's not go there.
You damn right. That means I'm not Bret Hart. That means you've been Bret well before I came in.
This. It's my fucking time. I am the game. It's my time. They kept us at the bottom of the barrel for the last 7 years.
We not finna about the cross brand because I know People's Champ was hype as shit when Brian won. So don't be acting like. Anyway, People's Champ, Diamond Cutter, Kid Dynamite. Yo, hypocritical ass. I'm out. Take it easy, guys. Here's 30 more and beyond. Peace.